Welcome to The Change, a podcast about the changes in life that shake, break, and make us. I'm Laura, a 45-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum who has until recently always loved change.
And I'm Kathy, a 53-year-old writer, podcaster, and mum, and change is actually my kryptonite. We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia on which this podcast is recorded and recognise the continuing connections to lands, waters and communities.
We pay our respects to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures and elders past and present.
The Season 2 partner of The Change is Alivio Wellness Skincare, hydrating natural skincare for the over 40s.
Keep listening to the end of this episode for a discount code for your next order of Alivio Wellness products. Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Laura. How you going?
I'm good. Tell me, who is on The Change today?
We are so blessed. We are joined by an incredible woman and a dear friend of mine, Talitha Cummins. Many might know Talitha from seeing her on our TV screens over the last nearly 2 decades. She flourished as a high-profile journalist and presenter for Australia's 7 network and radio industry. Though from a young age, she immersed herself in the captivating world of fine jewellery, honing her skills and expertise before her insatiable curiosity about the world led her to study broadcast journalism. However, her story didn't end there. Her passion for diamonds has never waned. Fueled by a deep family connection, Talitha discovered the world of lab-grown diamonds. And in October 2023, Talitha announced she was leaving her successful journalism career to embark on a sparkling revolution. She launched The Cut Jewellery, a venture exclusively dedicated to these brilliant lab-grown gems.
Very exciting. Let's welcome Talitha to The Change.
Hey, Talitha, we've finally got you on our podcast and we're very excited to have you on.
It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay, welcome. So, Talitha, you have had some huge changes in your life, the most recent being your announcement to leave your journalism career and launching a business in diamond and jewellery creating. That is a big shift. Can you tell us what led you to jewellery and away from journalism?
Yes, it definitely a big shift. So I was a broadcast journalist for about 20 years, but prior to that, I worked in the jewellery industry when I was at school and through uni as well. So I had my foundations there and I always sort of loved the idea of the industry. Plus, my uncle has been in the diamond industry for about 50 years. So we'd had various conversations over the years that we may join forces one day. And then it was not until after I had my son and, I was doing lots of consulting and media consultancy. And my son and I were making, I think he was 5 at the time, making these, beaded bracelets and selling them through the internet. And they ended up going really well. And so I ended up sitting up until midnight each night making, hundreds of these bracelets. Anyway, my uncle messaged me one day and said, "Why don't you make the real bloody thing?" And I sort of went, and then he followed it up with a phone call and said, "No, I'm not joking." He said, "I think you'd really enjoy the jewelry industry and the bespoke arm of my business is going really, really nuts. People want things that are custom made. They want, personalized service, all of these things." And I said no initially. But then he talked me around and said, "Why don't you go and do some study and see if it's something that interests you?" So I did. And I spent, 6 or 8 months doing online study with the GIA. And then I went to London and to do my diamond grading course, face-to-face, a practical diamond grading course. And I just fell in love with it in the process. And it was just so completely different from what I'd ever done. And I thought, how are my skills going to transfer? And how am I going to, is that 20 years of broadcast journalism wasted, or will I find a way to transfer these skills? And it's kind of worked out a little bit that I have, because I'm focusing on lab grown diamonds. And obviously that's a new sector. It's a new area, requires education. And of course, I'm a journalist and, that's what I do. And so I've been doing a lot of online education, videos through social media, and we've grown our following that way.
Wow. And is it mostly obviously lab grown diamonds would mostly be, I imagine, for weddings, special occasions? Is it that it's high end stuff, right?
So it's for everything, really. So yes, I'd say the bulk of our work is in engagement rings for couples, and then there's also tennis bracelets, tennis necklaces, stud earrings, all those sorts of things. Because the value proposition for lab-grown diamonds compared to mined diamonds is really great, and people are finding that really attractive.
Yeah, and I think I actually bought a couple of those original bracelets from you for of Ollie's.
Did you?
Actually, yeah, I've actually still got the pouch that you posted them in my desk drawer. So yes,
and
I
are the
bought one
bracelets still standing?
Yeah, it's in my desk drawer. I bought one for me and one for my best friend. I remember that at the time because it was during COVID, and it was Ollie was raising money for something, and I was like, I have to help Ollie.
Oh, so gorgeous. Well, I'm glad to hear that the craftsmanship has stood the test of time with those
It has. It sure has. So I've known you for some years now, and we met, oh gosh, at I think it was a Mum Society event or something in Paddington or Centennial Gardens. Yeah, Paddington.
Yes.
And I had my own rock bottom mental health breakdown in 2015. And for me, it was a little bit easier because I could do my rehab and my journey back to functional in the private. And at the time, my rock bottom, it wasn't alcohol, it was money. But all that psychological work that I've had to do and that I do weekly still, I came to realize that I had actually a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. So I stopped drinking 12 years ago now because my body couldn't tolerate it anymore, but it was my body recognizing it couldn't do the alcohol before my brain caught up to alcohol's not healthy for me. So that's something else you've really been quite open and public about. What was happening in your life when you confronted your battles with alcohol?
And thank you for sharing that, Kathy. I've really appreciated watching you share your journey along the way. And at times when I've, because it looks great. I've started this new business and everything's going well, and it looks like I've got it together, but it's not always the case, as you know. Like it's some days are just not great, and to have people like you around and sharing their story just really helps. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
So where was I at? I thought I was functioning. I had a
We
job.
all do.
Yeah,
we all do.
we do. I had a job at Channel 7. I had worked hard to get to Sydney, Channel 7 Sydney. I was a newsreader, a journalist, had a great job, but I was going home and drinking, between 3-4 bottles of wine a night. And then gradually things became worse because on the weekends I would just, spend the whole weekends, and then I'd disappear, and then I wasn't turning up for work. And, I was thinking that I was having fooled everyone, but I wasn't. And then one day my chief, after a weekend of not turning up for work, and that's literally just not no-shows, my chief of staff sat me down and just said to me, "You're not okay, are you?" And I just said, no, I'm not. And I think it was just that little tap on the shoulder that was enough to get me to realize that I needed help. That being said, I'd tried to stop drinking so many times. I'd ended up in hospitals. I'd done all sorts of things, like it was a bit of a car crash, but it was just that my work facade had crumbled that made me realize that things were not great anymore and that I needed help.
And the help that you got, like how did you go around getting that help? Like was work helpful in doing that? Did your family and friends rally around you? I mean, I know when mine happened, like I had a lot of support around me. I say I know there's a big chunk of my life that I don't remember, so I can't specifically say, but I have journals from that time, and when I, am brave enough to read back, I know that I had a lot of love and support, which I think is really important to get through.
And that's great to hear. But I was on a little mission by myself, I think. Like I decided to go to AA. I went to AA that
Mhm.
night, and I'd tried a few times before and just walked out and started drinking again. But I
I don't
committed to
think you're
doing.
alone there though.
No, no, it's a common thing.
Mm.
But I committed to 90 meetings in 90 days. I saw a psychiatrist and a psychologist, and I started running. I started exercising more, and I isolated from people. I didn't go out anymore. I didn't go to the same places. Retreated from the world while I tried to rebuild myself, because I knew that the things that had happened, I just recognized that this was a very serious stage for me, and that if I didn't take action, the outcome wouldn't be good.
Mm.
And what about after that 90 days? What happened next?
So I started feeling amazing
Mm.
after that 90 days, and I shared that in a blog post on a site. And then that posted to my Facebook page, unbeknownst to me at the time. And then I just remember I checked Facebook. It was the time when you didn't even look at, mobile phones and know every single person that was liking every single post. And I went home to my computer that night, and I just remember seeing it had exploded, like my Facebook page. People just, words of encouragement, likes, comments, all sorts of things. And I went, oh my God, this is out now. And then I got a message from someone at a journal at the Daily Telegraph saying that they wanted to do a story on it as well. And so it was kind of out there. And so began my public journey, with me sharing to Australia about what was going on in my life.
Your family knew though, like, didn't they?
Yes,
Like, close friends and family were aware of what you were going through and like what,
they were.
trying to
Yes.
rebuild and do all of those things. So it wasn't a huge shock for them, but
No.
would have been a shock for it was, a shock for everybody else who
Yes.
didn't know you
Yes.
personally at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, including my news bosses. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. So yeah, it was an interesting time, but I just think things are meant to happen as they are, because I was in that position as a journalist. I had, a little platform, and for me to share that story, I mean, I've received a lot of messages over the years that people say they could see a little bit of themselves in my story, and that it helped them in some way. So I just look at that as something that was meant to happen.
So that was more than 10 years ago now?
Nearly 12 years ago in
Goodness.
September.
I think you're sort of ahead of the curve in the sense that there's quite a big movement away from drinking in Australia at the moment. Many young people, I read all the time about Gen Zs who are not drinking at all. There's so many more alcohol-free options when you go into the supermarket or bottle shops now. I mean, how do you feel? So this question's two parts. How do you feel about alcohol these days? And what would you say to any young woman or man who might be listening and reflecting on their own patterns of drinking?
I feel fine. I mean, alcohol, it's my problem, right? So I don't look at or request of any of the people I'm sitting with or my friends or anyone else to alter their behavior because of my, my illness as it is. So I have no problems with it. I mean, we had a trunk show for our jewellery brand the other night, and I ordered the champagne and I poured glasses of champagne. That's not an issue for me. But I just know that if I drink now, then everything that I've created and my marriage and my kids and all of those things are at risk. Because once I pick up a drink, I know I don't know what happens after that. So I just need to, be sure that I stay away from it. In terms of young people, I'm really happy to hear, and I hear a lot of reports of that younger people are just not going out and obliterating themselves every Saturday night, Friday and Saturday night, and getting more into fitness and health and those sorts of things. I just think the best test for someone who may think that they have a problem with alcohol is to remove it from your life for a month and see how you react to that. And it's not until you remove that from your life do you realize the impact that it actually is having on your life. Problematic drinkers, like there are still family members, friends, lots of people who come to me and say, look, I think this person has got a problem. My mum's got a problem. My dad's got a problem. My sister, whatever. Apart from planting a seed in their mind, about your concern, there's really not a lot you can do because unless that person wants to accept that they have a problem and wants to help themselves, you can't force someone to do that.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because no one can make the change in their life until they're ready to make their own changes. And as you know, you can be a concerned bystander, sort of standing on the sidelines, but until someone is ready to make those changes themselves, you really can't do anything for them until they want to do it. And I'm a little bit like you with alcohol these days. It's been so long now that I've had it since I've had a drink. And every now and then there's just this little voice in the back of my head that sort of says, one maybe wouldn't hurt at like big events, special occasions, my children have all turned 18. And my son was 21. So all of those big moments or weddings and you kind of just think, oh, one wouldn't hurt. It's, for me, I don't know about you, but it's probably not the first drink that's going to be the problem. It's going to be the second, third and fourth where I can't stop the drink. That's going to be the issue, or that I want more, or, so for me, I just don't. And everyone around me says, if it's too much for you, we won't drink. So, and it's fine. Like I'm like you. I don't care if they do or if they don't. But my best friend especially, she says to me, if you need me to not drink, I won't. It's fine. So.
And that's so great that you've got such wonderful support around you, because there are examples of where people say, oh, well, I'm stopping drinking, but my friends are all pressuring me or saying, why don't you have a drink, or just one, or just, So I think it's really great that you've got that support around you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Just such a good conversation to have, and it's obviously you've been leading the way, both of you, with not drinking for so long now, because there is still a little bit of pressure, I find, even going out with people, and I'm in my 40s, where people just automatically pour drinks and things, and I think that it's only been the last few years where it has been it's been okay to say, no, I don't drink. And I remember being pregnant and being kind of in some ways relieved that was just a blanket excuse. No, I'm pregnant. I don't want to drink. I can't drink, etc. And I think Australia, and I grew up in the UK, which is very similar culturally, where drinking is such a big part of our lives. It's ridiculous, really, that you can't just say no and everyone go, all right, no worries, have whatever you want.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So
it is. It's very similar cultures in that way. But
yeah.
And you just hope, and from what we hear from younger people, that is sort of weeding out a little bit.
Yeah.
So let's just hope.
That's right. Yeah. And thank you for doing all the good work and, making people have these difficult conversations sometimes. So, yeah.
You're mid-40s, early 40s?
I'm 44. I just turned 44.
Yeah, so kind of close enough to mid. So what's left for Talitha? Like, big changes, small changes? What's left for,
What's left? I have dreams to grow my business. I'm loving it so much. We did our first trunk show on Thursday, and we're going to do one in Brisbane now, and then maybe Melbourne. So I feel like I found my thing. Like,
so
I never
good.
felt like that with journalism. And I used to watch people, who enjoyed their jobs or who enjoyed what they're doing or were passionate about it, and just think longingly about having that one day. And I just love the mechanics of business and all the different aspects and the marketing and the suppliers and the inventory and the relationships. And I'm really, really happy. So I think I just want to test myself and see how far I can push it, I guess.
It's so funny that you say you didn't love journalism, because when, like, as a viewer watching you, you radiated it. Like, you were great at it. It was, like it looked like it was your calling. It looked like it was your passion. So you did that very well.
I think I'm a good actress, apparently.
Can you explain what a trunk show is? You said that. I'm so intrigued. The jewellery term. What is it?
Yes. So it's basically an upscale Tupperware party, really. So we had a very kind couple allowed us to use their home for the evening, very nice home. And we took in, champagne, we got it catered, we set all of our jewellery up, and they invited, I think there were 40 people there. And I basically did a little talk about, Lab Diamonds and what we do, and then people started buying things.
Fabulous.
That's handy.
My kind of party, my kind of trunk show.
Yes.
I think I need to save my pennies, but I am saving my pennies, and I will come to a trunk show one day.
Yes,
So,
yes. And they're just lots of fun as well. It's just nice to get out and talk to people and, get to know them and work out what people are really looking for.
Yeah, it's a great way of meeting and getting to know your customers and future customers. And is there anything at all you miss about journalism or, being a media personality?
I spoke to Sylvia Jeffries one day when I think there was a cyclone earlier in the year. And she was going up to cover it, and I was a little bit envious, to be honest.
But were you envious that she was going to cover the story, or were you envious that she was getting to run away from home for a little while, and all of the mental load that comes from having with 2 children and a husband and all of the things with a job? And
yes, a bit of column A and column B, I think there. But I just thought, it's just the and I think I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie with that sort of stuff. It's the thrill of the chase and the unknown, and when's it going to cross and where, and all that sort of thing. So that, and also driving around for a day with the cameraman and all the stories and all the adventures. Like, you meet the wildest people and you speak to the very best and very worst of society. So it's like a little everyday adventure. But look, I'm happy where I am now. I don't think I could ever go back.
Yeah.
One of the guys I used to work with at SES, he's got a Channel 7 camo these days, and he's just I follow him on Instagram and watch what he's doing, and he's having a riot of a time. Absolutely.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, it's what you do when you're young, right? And in your 20s,
totally.
Chase those stories. So
totally, and you can pick up, and they're sending you. I just remember, one of the last jobs being the Christchurch earthquakes, and Talitha, you're getting on a jet and pack your bags, and I was gone for 10 days or something like that. No toilets, no running water. It's just, it's an adventurous life, but I just can't imagine doing it with 2 kids at home and a household,
Can you tell us a little bit about the Lab Diamonds? I know, obviously I follow you, The Cut, on Instagram, and can you get them in different colors? Like, just tell us a little bit about Lab Diamonds, because I'm so intrigued.
So Lab Diamonds are chemically, physically and visually the same as diamonds that come from the earth. This is a lab diamond here.
Wow.
Absolutely stunning.
They sparkle in the same way because they're made of the same substance, which is pure carbon. So the only difference between the two is their origin and their cost. They're a much lower price point because they don't have the cost of extraction from the earth, and they haven't been, mine diamonds have been controlled by large conglomerates for a very long time, i.e. De Beers, and the pricing, structure is in place. So with Lab Diamonds, that isn't the case, so you can get them at a much lower price point. So I just love the idea of, the old world, because my uncle's been doing this for 50 years. We've got the old world craftsmanship with the innovation of the
Mm.
lab diamonds.
Mm.
So I just found it really exciting. And when I was studying the diamonds in London in the laboratory, they gave us a lab and a mine diamond and said, tell us which one is the lab. And we used the microscopes, we looked through the loops, and we just couldn't do it because they're actually chemically and physically the same, and you need specialized equipment to tell them apart. So I think a business was born that day, and I called my uncle and I said, hi, I don't want to sell mined diamonds. And he said, oh, okay, you realize you're in the eastern suburbs of Sydney in one of those wealthy areas. And I said, I don't care. I think for me, the value proposition, the fact that you don't have to dig holes in the ground to get them. That being said, they do use electricity to grow them, but you're growing multiples at a time. And the ethics of it, I just found that to be much more attractive. And I thought, if I'm starting a new business, I don't want to be detracting from the earth. I want to do something that's a little bit more positive. So that's what I landed with. And yes, they do come in different colours, Kathy. You can get them in different hues. We're doing a vivid yellow baguette for someone at the moment. You can get them in, I've got a really dark green necklace pendant, all different colours. There are pinks. Yeah, so they're available in the fancy colours now as well, and all different cuts. They're graded in the same way as the mine diamonds in accordance with the 4 Cs, and they come with certificates. So they are certified by someone who is independent, and they put a grading system on the diamonds, or a grading on the diamond.
And if you were redesigning, say, a mined diamond ring, can you match that with like as close as possible? You know, in the same way that you would match 2 mined diamonds together, you could match with a lab diamond and a mined diamond together, and you're not necessarily going to notice. Or
no, absolutely. You could get something. You know, we'd go with something roughly of the same color, because they come in all colors and all clarities as well. So that's absolutely possible.
On sort of jewels generally, is this something that would work with another, like rubies or sapphires? Are these all possible to be grown in labs? Is that something?
Yes.
Yeah,
And they
okay.
already are. They
Okay,
already
yeah.
are. So rubies,
Wow.
sapphires, and emeralds. So hydrothermal process. Yes. So they're available as well.
Goodness.
So are you just diamonds, or you do all of?
No, we do everything.
Yeah.
And now if people want a natural diamond, we will supply them a natural diamond, because I just think a diamond is a diamond. Everyone, like, I think it's a very divided industry at the moment, because obviously labs have been a very big disruptor to the diamond industry. And, you know, there are some jewellers who will say, I will not sell lab-grown diamonds. I will only sell natural diamonds from the ground. But it's not up to us. You know, if someone wants a lab diamond, then they want a lab diamond for their own reasons. So I think that's the consumer is being forgotten in that argument.
What's the percentage of lab versus natural in the market? You know, if you were looking for a diamond ring, what is the percentage?
It's hard to say a percentage, but I'll give you an example. My uncle is doing, I think he said 33 rings at the moment, and 29 of those are lab grown.
Interesting. Yeah.
Whereas that is completely reversed from 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
And he wasn't sure to begin with either, because he's seen in his time so many incarnations of, you know, cubic zirconia, glass, moissanite, all of these things that have tried to replace or compete with diamonds but weren't actually diamond, whereas this is the same chemical composition.
And do you reckon the main reason for the flip is because essentially you can get the same size diamond or a larger diamond for the same price that you know, like if say your budget was $5,000, a mined $5,000 ring is, you're going to have to compromise either on size, clarity, cut, or all three to get the $5,000 ring, whereas a lab diamond is you're going to be able to get a bigger diamond if that's important to you, or you're going to be able to get better clarity or cut, or
all of that. Yes. So essentially a 1.5 carat we're doing for, you know, $5,500, $6,000, and that you're probably looking around the $20,000 plus mark for a mined diamond. So you can see why that's extremely appealing to people.
Mm.
for exactly the same product. It's just a
Mm.
different origin. So, and then if you're using the same, excellent craftsmanship in setting a stone, design, then it's really, it's hard to go past.
Mm.
Especially, all the people that come to me now, the young people who are getting married, they say, well, we're trying to buy a house. We're trying to, we're just paying rent, and we're going on a honeymoon, and we want to pay for our wedding. All of those things. It's a difficult financial time for the world. So
Mhm.
you can see why it's so attractive to people.
And do you think there's been a bit of a time, there's been a lag between the science and then catching up with what people want, and the kind of, was there snobbery was what I'm trying to get at originally?
Totally.
Yeah, so it's
Still
kind of,
is.
that's still okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that kind of
To a
gone or not.
certain degree.
Yeah, yeah.
Though I've found that in the last couple of months it's really started to shift.
Mm.
People are
Interesting.
now that once they become educated,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't argue with science. Science is
Mm.
fact.
Yeah.
These things are chemically, physically, visually the same. They're the same chemical composition.
Mm.
You might attach a particular story to having a stone from the ground, that it's, the romantic idea of having it grown in the ground and pushed up through the earth, and that might float your boat. But for a percentage of the population who is not particularly attached to that, this is an amazing proposition.
Mm.
And when I say a percentage of the population, I would say a growing percentage of the population. It's estimated, I think they're saying around 25% of the world's diamonds being sold now are labs.
Wow.
And I think I've seen you talking on one of your stories, or, reels that you do on Instagram, around that the value in the diamond is sentimental. Like, so there's value when you purchase it, obviously, like there's a cost to purchasing it. But once it's been purchased, it's a lot like a car, right? You pay a lot for a car, a brand new car, but you drive it like the minute you've driven it out of the driveway of the car yard, even if you take it straight back, it's now a used car. So the value of that car has significantly dropped, and the value in a diamond, whether it be mined or lab, is in the sentimentality. It's in the behind the emotion behind the diamond.
Absolutely. You buy, we encourage all of our clients to buy, and say that the return on diamond is beauty. A diamond, whether it comes from a lab or a mine, doesn't retain or gain value unless it's a rare gem. And we're talking like investment grade diamonds, mined diamonds, which are 3.5 carat plus. But a majority of the world is not buying investment grade diamonds. That's 0.0001%. So for the purposes of this exercise, we encourage people to buy them for sentimental reasons.
That's a fascinating insight into a whole industry I know nothing about. So thank you for educating. Yeah.
It's rather, I find it fascinating, and I find the psychology and the arguments, and I just I find it all fascinating. So
it's where you get to use your journalism research skills in researching and sharing the story of why, why,
Definitely.
Well, Talitha, that brings us sort of to the final question. And as our podcast is called The Change, which is in part reference to midlife experience of all women, whether that's perimenopause, menopause, etc., we would love to know. We know you've already said you're 44. What is your experience of or feeling towards the change?
I'm slightly terrified, I have to say, because because it's only recently that people have actually been talking about it. So it's been this big kind of, scary thing incoming. And I know that when I get PMS a week before, I am feeling all sorts of, rage and horrendous feelings. And I'm just scared if that is what is going to happen to me and just overtake my body and mind someday. So I think it's a little bit about, like, it's a lack of education on my part for me to be thinking like that. But yeah, I'm slightly terrified, I have to say.
Don't be terrified.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say don't be terrified, and see your GP, have a very good relationship with your GP, make sure they understand perimenopause, because the thing is, the hormone levels, they can do the tests and all the rest of it, and they could be normal 1 hour, and then an hour later they could be completely high or completely low. And so you can't base anything on hormones. It's all about your symptoms. But that comes down to being able to have that really good relationship with your GP and talk to them about MHT, which is what it's now called. I think it's menopausal hormone
treatment.
treatment,
Right.
which it was hormone replacement therapy. And
Oh.
yes, and like, honestly, godsend, keeps me sane, and from digging holes in the backyard to bury things or people or something. I don't know. It's just like, honestly,
Definitely
the
not.
rage. It's just, it's sometimes the tears come from absolutely nowhere. You just be like, what on earth am I crying about? It's an ad for a car on the television. What, like, why is that making me cry? Or the Lewis Capaldi song. Honestly,
Oh, that's sad, that song.
yeah, I know, but the film
Yeah.
clip, don't watch
Yeah.
the film
No,
clip
I've
when
seen
you're
the film clip.
emotional.
It's very
It's
sad.
terrible. It's terrible. But I think it's just like it, and you just need things to be a bit even. I think I've said it many, many times. My psychiatrist calls estrogen our bullshit hormone. It's so that we can deal with other people's bullshit. And so when that drops out of our bodies, our capacity to deal with their crap is a lot less and a lot lower.
I see. I
Yeah.
like that look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
But
gosh.
you've already, you've quit alcohol, so that's one thing you won't have to worry about, because that's obviously can be quite problematic for women coming into, I know I've certainly, my tolerance levels have completely dropped off, but which is probably my body's, way of telling me to stop drinking quite as much as well. But
Interesting, isn't it? So that is a
mm.
physiological thing
Oh,
that happens, your
yep.
tolerance levels of alcohol.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think it's the way it interacts with your hormones or something. So it's clearly not good for you. So, you won't have that to worry about. And you obviously you said you were running before. Do you still
Yes,
run?
yeah, I do a lot of exercise. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, I'm going to be fine.
You're going to be absolutely
She
fine.
runs, she
Yeah,
does spin classes, she does
Yeah.
Pilates. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
there's
You love your
any-
work.
Yeah, we'll see. Watch this
Mm.
space. Come and
That's
interview
it.
me in 5 years and might have a different report.
That's it.
So,
So,
gosh, it's this, like, there's just so much to love about Talitha. I met her, as we discussed, many years ago. She is a beautiful woman. She is very open with her struggles about alcohol, and just love her for that. And I'm a really staunch supporter of Talitha, and I love that she's doing this new jewellery venture.
when you first said about Talitha and her kind of her career progression and journey, I was like, she's doing what now? I didn't really understand what lab-grown diamonds were. I'd never heard of it before. But just listening to her talk about it and the kind of the process, and that it is so different to, mined diamonds.
Yeah,
As someone that loves a pretty sparkly thing, I can understand why it's really fascinating.
100%,
The
right?
science, yeah, but it's just like she says, she loves the business part of her life now, and I can get that. If you're really passionate about the product, it's a good product, there's a lot to love there, and you could really feel that she loves what she does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, when we got to talking about the diamonds and, like the price point difference, like,
Yes.
genuinely, if you were a young person today and you are looking to purchase a ring and you wanted a big diamond, like that was important to you, I genuinely don't know how you could even consider 20 grand over 5 grand, like.
Well, that's right. The cost of living crisis is not, it's not made up. It's people are genuinely struggling. And obviously, if you have some money, you would probably want to make it go as far as you possibly can. So it makes perfect sense. And there's a lot of bad history with mined diamonds. I remember the film Blood Diamond with Leonardo DiCaprio.
I think it was Blood Diamonds or
Blood
something.
Diamond, yeah. It's not it has a very nasty history, and so it's a great idea. And as you say, it's a disruptor, and I think these things take time. She's only been in the business so recently, but she has her uncle who has that knowledge, and he would have seen the changes and how quickly this product has kind of taken off. And I think it's good. It's fantastic to have things like this in the world where it's a better product and it's a better price point. Really, it makes sense. Anyway, that aside, I thought hearing her talk about her struggles with alcohol as well was very, as you say, she's very honest, and it's fascinating to hear how she got through it. And
and
amazing.
For anyone who hasn't seen more of Talitha's story, we'll pop a link into the show notes for her Australian Story episode where she goes into more detail about her struggles with alcohol. But yes, she's very generous with her time talking about her struggles because she is aware, as she said, that she has that platform and she's able to be a voice for people that can't always be a voice. So it was a good chat.
Absolutely. Thank you for introducing her to me and to everyone listening.
Thanks for listening to The Change, a fully independent podcast.
We love the Australian-made all-natural skincare brand Alivio Wellness, and we know you will too.
Use code THECHANGE at the checkout to receive 20% off your next order. Whether you're seeking inspiration, curious about change, or just here for the great banter, we'd love you to make The Change your new go-to podcast.
And even better, send us your voice notes or questions about change. We'll use them on the show. Email us at changepod2023@gmail.com or DM us on Instagram at _change_pod. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram for more on The Change.